And thanks everyone for spending some time here with us learning about Azure Microsoft strategy and cloud offering, and also about some of the best practices with our great panelists that they've been describing since morning. We started with Mary, who covered up a lot of conversation around the governance of a cloud. We have heard Rod, who actually have explained us about the wonderful product that Azure has to offer, Azure Sentinel around the security. We have heard from Manish around the development best practice around security, and also heard from our friend Fernando, a great partner of ours from Trend Micro, who've been like sharing with us like how to even further secure through from an IDS IPS perspective, and integrate security alerts into a service management tool set. With that, I mean, we've been doing and listening a lot of great practices that many of you at some point is going to embark on it. That investment and the IT service management practice that you are going to deploy in your own organization, how exactly that actually is going to change your current IT management practices into a cloud. And when cloud with bringing more visibility in terms of like transparency of the data, IT assets, and all that stuff, you would like to perhaps also think about it how you can leverage the cloud governance practices or the security practices into your on-prem world of it. And that's where the hybrid comes in. That's the common phenomena that we've been hearing from our customer, that they want to start adopting and standardizing the processes, but it's a little bit beyond. So I would like to take you guys for 1 minute quick video here and show you what Azure is and Azure practices is. Ron, if you can correct me if you can hear the audio and everything, that would be great.
Hold it one sec. We can't hear the video right now.
That should be okay. I think the messages are coming that I wanted to come across, and I will also cover it in a little bit here.
Okay, so you might want to just speak over it, okay, Mickey?
So what we just covered in a short video here is the real need of a compute power just to cover the entire planet and just beyond planet, even space. I mean, it's a mind-boggling opportunity that IT has enabled many other business to even venture into it, and enable some of the services to go above and beyond leveraging IT. And those are a few stories that was covered in one minute or so, and essentially would like to highlight a couple of additional stories that we've been witnessing at our customer. Here, the company named Kroger, but then there are many other retail companies, including Walgreens and few others, even the warehouses from the large manufacturing. Many of those people, when they have the high amount of data that they wanted to capture from the retail storefront or maybe the warehouse front or wherever you can imagine, they have all the images that are being captured and analyzed locally at the edge itself. And what they are doing is uploading just mere data into a cloud, and that's the one of the use case of an edge computing. Similarly, from the geospatial perspective, the satellites are capturing the images, and those are wonderful to analyze, but then there are additional evidences that we need to collect from the ground, and that's what the ESRI organization has the several products that they have built upon it. And this complete ecosystem that they have built it's purely in partnership with Microsoft Azure and a hybrid strategy that we have in place. So bringing your on-prem world, managing your on-prem IT assets into the same manner that you are going to manage cloud. In parallel to it, we are expanding the use case of edge computing and going back into an on-prem type of setup and extending that experience into your edge computing. In a nutshell, hybrid is there, going to be there, and always going to be needing our IT portfolio to require having the hybrid strategy in a play. So in a nutshell, if we look at the modern ecosystem, our our consumers are asking for a machine learning capability at edge. Any other edge computing where the sensors are capturing a bunch of data that are captured at the edge level, and they wanted to analyze at the edge, or maybe just capture and push back into the cloud. And the last but not least, the data transfer that will take place. Bandwidth are not just enough. 5G has placed a lot of promises to us, but we are not ready and we are not there yet. So there are we have a bandwidth constraints. There are also locations that are not connected. Our farms are not so much of connected via all the network connectivity, so we need like the offline data collections and push back into cloud. These are some of the requirements that we have noticed. So what Microsoft has taken a step into it with the hardware portfolio, and Microsoft is very proponent of an open source ecosystem, and there are initiatives around open source hardware platform initiatives. And as a part of it, what we have built it is the Azure Stack Edge Pro, which is the on-premise based system that we can implement. The hardware is ready to go completely Azure friendly. We have a Azure Stack Edge Pro R, which is the rugged format of it, which is the same Edge Pro with the UPS and the battery backup and the generator capable, with the rugged version of chassis that built into it. And the last but not least, the Stack Edge Mini R, which is what you have saw many of those people take it with them in a backpack with the battery pack operations built into it, and it's ready to go with the networking built into it. Such a family is all coming from a Microsoft, but then we have a huge partner ecosystem to bank on it. If you look at it, the EMC Dell has the traditional the Edge actually offering that's coming from an HCI. Hewlett Packard also have the ProLine servers, EdgeLine Blade series, or the Synergy storage platform. But that's not the only one. We have a huge open source hardware ecosystem. They are coming up with a compute storage and network, and Microsoft is working very closely with them to enable and offer you a hybrid capability. Now, so that hardware is out there, what are we going to do with that? As we learn it, IoT Edge is one of the requirement. Kubernetes, just to leverage that IoT Edge, which is capturing data with the variety of sensors that goes back, feed into the storage that are on an edge platform. But we need modern applications to even make a use of that data. So microservice architecture based applications that runs on a Kubernetes. And as we all know, that Kubernetes is the very complex ecosystem where it's a virtualized platform for a microservices, but then also it comes with the heavy weightage on a governance factor such as the networking, security, and all that stuff that we have to think about it. But cloud ecosystem have made it orchestration so simple, easy to manage the Kubernetes itself. We want to make sure we leverage that portion of it. And last but not least, we have the virtual machine requirement. We have like heavy applications with the layered application loaded on it, and when the multiple application needs to be run on it, Windows or the Linux based workload that needs to be run at the edge location. These are the common elements that we have seen. So let's dive into it. What exactly that we are seeing, that why the Azure ecosystem needs to be extended into edge. And that's what something that we wanted to bring it to your attention here, that in a cloud, we call it the computer of the world, where we have machine learning, monitoring, stream analytics, cognitive services, all of it are there, which is backed up by the Azure time series insights, Azure SQL, event grid, and functions, which is the low code, no code based operations that you wanted to take it based upon the data that you have collected. And when just I'm just double clicking on a cognitive service like that we could do on many, but in the interest of time, I have just expanded the cognitive service on the right hand side. What can we do with those cognitive service extended into it? Spatial analytics, language understanding, phrase extraction, or maybe the image processing that we wanted to take it. We want to analyze and bring in the artificial intelligence based sentiment analysis we want to apply on top of it. All of it that we wanted to bring into Edge. How it is going to be possible in line with the application. If we look at it, the Kubernetes, that we can build an application to do all of that while leveraging those cloud ecosystem and cloud offered services to be extended in Edge. The Kubernetes that can bring us the goodness of like bunch of microservices we can plug in, and this truly brings in a hybrid experience where the part of your application runs in cloud, part of your application runs in Edge, and that all combined together is a one application. It's a mind-boggling possibilities that you can imagine, that how can you make a use of the Edge and also a cloud in parallel to each other, and bring all sorts of innovative products on a market. And similarly, VM, virtual machines, want to make sure that when you provision a VM on an Azure, it goes through a certain process and have a standardization applied to it. Similar experience you wanted to bring on your Edge also, whether you use the hardware HCI, or maybe you wanted to bring in with the Microsoft offered platform or hardware, whatever you want to use, but you wanted to have that seamless experience extended into Edge. Want to deploy those VMs with the standard images that you have built and prepared your cloud ready in the line of those workloads. Not only that, but then governance and operational processes, also security, that you are going to kind of like frame it as a standard security practices in a cloud or the cloud-based ecosystem. And that's exactly what you are going to extend in your Edge as well. So when we look at it, infrastructure as a service, edge compute, and hardware accelerated machine learning, all of it are possibly run both in a cloud, in Azure, or maybe like on an Edge. But then the biggest thing also to think about it is the storage. When you are capturing the enormous amount of data on an Edge platform, not only that you have to think about it, what you are going to push back into the cloud, whether you need all of it to be pushed into the cloud, or maybe you just wanted to analyze locally and put some of the insights back into the cloud for further analysis. And that's how we are going to think about future application. In a nutshell, what exactly we are seeing here is the need of a big picture where you have your lot of workload running in an Azure, but beyond the Azure, that you have your own data centers where your legacy applications are running. Maybe you have an Edge where you have IoT-based solutions that you have deployed, which will be feeding data back to your ERP system like SAP or something. Or maybe you have a disconnected system which is capturing data, analyzing locally, providing cloud-like experience at the disconnected place. But then when you come back, that particular unit come back to a specific geographical area where the data network is available, it connects back to the cloud. So there is a need of a software element or the service element that we have to think, which can provide and bring all of these different islands into a connected manner. And that's what the Arc is. Azure Arc is a set of technologies that extend Azure governance, management, Azure services to run all that on-premise or Edge or the multi-cloud also. And that's what we are going to see in the upcoming rise of a hybrid strategy that a lot of companies are taking. So when we look at that rising footprint of an IT asset, it's becoming very, very complex. How it is becoming complex? From an IT perspective, we are talking about virtual machines. We are talking about the Kubernetes containers, We are talking about the variety of databases that are going to be needed, and also the serverless experience that business or applications want to leverage, because it's efficient from the monetary perspective, and at the same time it is also required to make the operational more real time. Not only that, but with the development environment or the development perspective, we have a variety of development platform that we have to think through about .NET, JS, Node, uh, Java, Go, PHP, all of those things that we have in our mind, we have to think through to support, because your applications with agile environment, it's becoming more like fluid. Not only that, we have a diverse infrastructure to think about. Your workload could be running in a data center, it could be running on an edge, it could be running on a branch office, or maybe any colo service provider, and perhaps maybe it may be running in a different cloud also. As Kubernetes is the platform independent, you could run it someday in Azure, someday in AWS, someday in Google Cloud, and back to Azure wherever it makes sense. And that's how the increasing complexity needs to be addressed. So how are we going to do it? As I said, Azure Arc is going to enable you to do that. Let's understand initially what is happening, and how we are administering all of this in a cloud with the Azure platform itself. So we have a variety of tool set, like the PowerShell scripts we can use. We have a Bash or the Azure CLI that we can think about it. We can have the Terraform or other scripting mechanism we can put on top of it, like Ansible or something, Salt or something like that. And we have our development, or maybe the code infrastructure as a code is being done in that manner, and it is done for managing and administering your workload running in an Azure. The same experience you are going to also bring in. So you apply the RBAC policies, or maybe you are going to have the templating done, whether you are going to have the security policy done, all of it that you are going to define for an Azure. Same thing that you are going to extend that to also into a customer location, and that's through an Azure Arc. And that's exactly what something enables the hybrid strategy to a reality. Before we go into it, how Arc is going to work, I just want you to like understand this ecosystem in a much better way, because that's the essence of it, and that's exactly what I want you to think about it. How or what practices you have in place as of today, which will allow you to basically think about the hybrid. And that's exactly where basically our use case of hybrid that comes in, where I explained you the Azure Stack, which is the hardware component of it, or the Edge, there is a hardware component of it as well. Then the layer of a workload, which is the virtual machine, Kubernetes, or maybe the database type, like variety of database type that needs to be administered, or maybe the IoT edge devices with the IoT based software as a service plugin that is offered by Azure, that you are going to take it. And then you are going to run that Azure data service anywhere. You are going to also extend your governance management across all of the environment in uniform manner. You are going to adopt the cloud practices that you are going to define, which is the new IT service management portfolio, or the process you are defining that you wanted to take back to an on-premise world. And last but not least, you want to implement all the Azure security anywhere. And that's exactly what basically this Azure Arc is going to enable you to do. So let's talk about a little bit on the Azure data services anywhere. So first of all, we have the Azure data services like the Cosmos DB, which is the global database which enables your applications to have data put anywhere. We have a content delivery network where you can prepare your website such a way so that they don't see any latency when they actually hit the website from anywhere in the world. We have a variety of other databases, like the Redis cache is one, or maybe you wanted to consider the Postgres database or anything like that. And you wanted to basically start leveraging the cloud ecosystem, which is offered either in a form of a platform as a service or the software as a service like Azure Synapse or something that you wanted to take an advantage. Secondly, the elastic scale. You don't want to pay a whole lot of the money upfront in procuring license or storage and maybe database and hardware behind running that database services. And you want to start small but then grow eventually. So elastic scale is the second need of that database management practice. Unified management, whether you manage SQL on Azure, whether you manage Cosmos DB, or whether you manage Postgre database on Azure, or maybe Redis cache, whatever you want to manage, there is a uniform management plane that we actually offered as in form of an Azure platform. So that's what perhaps you wanted to apply. Unmatched security, right? Like four speaker before me were all talking about the governance and security that you are going to invest in defining process, adapting tools, outlining the log analytics, log capturing, and also define processes to come forward with the security reporting. And last but not least, the billing. You want the granular details on the billing data, where how much you spend on your resources, and you want to have same experience brought onto your on-prem world as well. And that's why, like, it's very important to understand, think about not only just the workload but also data services that we have to offer. And that's what something that we highlight. Any hardware, any workload platform, virtualization platform like Kubernetes, OpenShift, or anything like that, we have the management practice that includes the provisioning, updates, automated updates, or the security patch updates policy that you want to apply, a scaling feature that you want to perhaps take it like a VM scale set, or maybe the Kubernetes scale set that you want to take it. You want to capture diagnostics in a uniform format. You want to apply the security monitoring and also the disaster recovery practice using Azure Site Recovery, and you are defining all of it for Azure. Might well we can leverage that using Azure Arc for on-prem. But then also the database services, that Postgre database or the SQL, Azure SQL database, or maybe any database that is run on platform as a service, search, Elasticsearch, or anything like that. And finally, want to leverage the custom apps, BI, or analytics. And that's where this particular slide is very valuable to understand from a perspective where we started from the edge. We brought in the operational management to a common platform like Arc, and we are enabling our hybrid strategy and extending that benefits towards the database data services, or the app, BI, or the apps that we are going to run into it. And that's exactly where this Arc is enabling the hybrid strategy. While we are investing our efforts, process, and people adopting more cloud-based platform, there is another rhythm that we have also noticed, that people are moving towards the infrastructure as a code, or maybe the application that is going to be deployed on a platform as a service. And many of the DevOps practices are evolving based upon the cloud ecosystem, where the code infrastructure is written as a code, and also application is embedded with that, or the developers are even writing code such a way so that it can be more agile, like literally leveraging the container service and so forth. They want to build and also the test at the same time, and finally they want to deploy. So according to a DevOps practice, we are defining policies, we are defining the security policies and monitoring policies upfront to be leveraged, whether we go through the coding, build, test, deploy, or operate. Those are all actually are going to depend on the policy, security, and monitoring. So what exactly Azure DevOps is enabling? Some of the code base that we have it, we are embedding and bringing the policy as a code and bring forward actually the deployment phase. So there is no errors actually being made at the time of your application being deployed, whether it's on Azure or wherever you think of it. And that's exactly how the seamless integration of Azure DevOps with the Azure platform as a whether you want to consider infrastructure as a service, whether platform as a service, or the data services, which is software as a service, you want to think of it, all of it, you are going to take an advantage of it. It's going to be completely seamless, where your business will not realize whether it's running on a stack edge or whether it's going to run on the Azure platform itself. And finally, what I wanted to bring it up to this level is we started with why, we started with what, and also covered like some of the elements of the tool set Azure Arc, which is going to enable you to do that. But how is the critical element? A lot of people think about it and become skeptical when it comes to how part. So what we have done is simplified view. We have an Azure management practice, whether you are managing your workload or whether you are managing your infrastructure in form of a Azure portal you are using, or whether Azure CLI, or whether you are using Azure SDK integrated with Azure DevOps, whatever the tool set that you are using, behind the scene it is consuming the identity and the governance practice with the rollback policies. It has a lot of other elements to think about. In all of it runs on Azure. Same thing we are going to extend. There is no change in the management practices. We are going to extend in form of your own location, where how are we going to consume your own data center or the edge location, that we are going to enable your Azure practice into it through the Azure Arc agents that we are going to deploy in the variety of places. And there are appliance-based solution out there, there are agent-based solution out there, and there are direct API-based solution out there, and which will enable these possibilities. But once we enable all of your on-prem devices or the gears or the data services enabled or plugged in with Azure Arc, we can start leveraging the Azure Data Studio or the K8 practices or the native tools that we have, or the server admin tool that is offered in Azure, which means you can power on, power off your on-prem servers from the Azure app, which can be installed on your mobile phone. And that's exactly what the experience we wanted to bring it to you in form of an Azure hybrid. Hope this helps, and this help you envision possibilities for you and your businesses, how we can perhaps start taking advantage of it. And here is some additional details for you, what you can read in order to make yourself aware with the Azure hybrid strategy.